Hello chess enthusiasts, especially those who are enthusiastic about Soviet chess, as I must confess that I am. I've already posted a couple of videos on YouTube concerning the Soviet game, and I'm now going to present to you a little magazine that I acquired some years ago in the early part of 1978. And this is it. As you can see from here, it was number 2, so that's February 1977. So I acquired this about a year after the publication. This is Sport and Special Issue. And down here it points out that this issue is devoted to chess in the Soviet Union. Now there was only a couple of copies of this left, so I was very fortunate to find it. It wasn't from the same source as the other 2 videos referred to, but a very interesting magazine it is, and I'll go through it in a subsequent video in more detail sometime. But what I want to refer to in this one are some problems. So let's find those. Here they are. And very interesting they are too. Now, this was a competition, in fact. There's a dozen of them all together. So as you can see, they go right down to 12. And readers were invited to send in their suggestions, and they would be awarded with prizes accordingly. And here are the prizes. Now, since I acquired this magazine a year after the event, it would have been pointless entering it, so I didn't bother. And I didn't have any further details as to the solutions either. So I thought to myself at the time, I'll go through these one of these days, and here we are, some over 44 years later, and I'm going through them. But it's a nice time to do so because they're new to me, as they are to you, no doubt. I don't think for a moment that this magazine will be known to many, if any, these days outside the Soviet Union. They've probably been manhandled and maybe even destroyed, which will be a pity. But the fact is, like it says here, they grade them. So we have mates in 2, we have mates in 3, mates in 3, yes, mates in 4, and it goes right the way up. There's a draw here on the way, but the further you go up in numbers, the more difficult they get. So like it's pointing out here, they are effectively what's called in French hors de concours, without rival, without equal. They're out of competition, so they rate them as extremely difficult. Even the first few are going to be a tough nut to crack. So many of you might be thinking, someone like me who has not a great deal of knowledge of Russian, and I don't, I must confess, I can probably get by, but generally speaking, you don't need to have a knowledge of foreign languages, especially with modern publications, because it tends to be in figurine notation and you can work your way through it. But of course, if the analysis is in Russian, let me just show you for a moment. There's a game here of Anatoly Karpov against Boris Spassky in 1975, and all the annotations are by Karpov. It's a win by Karpov. Very interesting game as well. Queen's Indian defense. Now, it would be very difficult for somebody who didn't have fluency in Russian to read through all of this. So you're probably wondering now, how does he get by? Well, he gets by quite simply because the second one, I did mention that there were 2 left, the second one is in English. So I did very well. The last 2, and I thought to myself, I'll have one in the original language and I'll have one in English so that I understand exactly what's going on. But like it says here, it's published in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 languages, including Russian and English. So I dropped on there, I suppose you could say. So what we'll do is we'll go back to these for a moment in the English version of it. I've laid the position out for the first one, which is the same there. Just take a look at that position and pause the video if you want. It's a mate in 2, and see if you can come up with the key move. The key move is always vital, of course, because then you're on the right route. And even if you make a mistake, it's sort of like an Ariadne's thread where at least if you're at the right point, you can always go back to that point and start again. So long as you can get the first move, and in fact with a mate in 2, you're already 50% of the way there, aren't you, more or less, for the white side. It doesn't matter then really what black plays, it's a win. So the clue that I'd give you in this one is that, again, I've mentioned this in previous videos, that you have to be careful that you don't allow the opponent to secure a stalemate. And it would be so easy to do just that in this position, because as can be seen, certain of these squares are covered. And if black could manage to sacrifice his rook and get white to take it, leaving black without a move of the king, it's a stalemate. So that is something that you particularly desire to avoid. So we won't go down there. What we'll do instead is I'll say this. It's sort of like an Alekhine coup de repos, an in-between move or a waiting move. You're playing for time. You're not giving check. I'll give you a clue there. And you're offering a sacrifice, which doesn't have to be taken. But whether it's taken or not, it doesn't matter. White will be able to mate on the second move. This bishop here is wanting to be brought into the play, and in one, but not all variations, it is brought into the play and can give checkmate. And the element of black giving check does not allow him to save the game. That's another clue. So if you keep all of those points in mind, there's a possible sacrifice, bringing this bishop into play. Black can give check with this rook in one of the variations. But this rook here needs to be protected. That is another important clue. So no matter what you play, this rook has to be protected. So take a good look at that and then see if you can come up with the answer. In the meantime, I'll revert to my own pocket chess set board, which is exactly the same position, and I'll give you the solution. Any ideas at all? Okay, well, like I said, a key to this is, in a way, bringing this bishop into play. But the sacrifice is important. Now, how would you sacrifice a piece here? See, if you move the queen to here, you're not sacrificing it, you're giving check, but the black king can take the rook, or it can move to here, so that is completely useless. You could give check down here, which would protect the rook, and at the moment, black is in stalemate again, because the king cannot move anywhere. It's a recurring theme in a lot of these positions, but it's a fact. But black, of course, can just take the queen with check and it's all over for white as regards a mate in 2, even if white eventually still won it because of the preponderance of material. You're defeating the object of the exercise. So I'll give you a clue. It is a queen move, and it's a sacrifice. Where do you go with it? Just look at it for a few seconds. Okay, well, the move in question is the killer punch of queen h8. Now this queen still protects the rook. Like I was saying, the rook needs protection. Now how does black reply to this? Well, the obvious move, of course, is rook h2, isn't it? Now, I solved this in 15 minutes. Well, in fact, I solved it in 2 minutes. I found queen h8 straight away because I'm always looking for waiting moves. But I dismissed it because of this. And then I started looking at other things and I couldn't find it. And by the time I reached about the 10-minute stage, I thought, I'll check it again. And of course, it hit me. It's like Albert Einstein said, you could think for a very long period of time over a problem and not be able to get it. And then think about other things, and then it would come to you instantly without notice. And here, if you look at it, you're taking the rook, you're stopping the check, and you're checking the king, which also covers this rook. This appeared in a previous video as well, where you're checking the king, but it covers the piece behind the king. All these white squares are covered, all these are covered by the rook, and all these by the rook, and that is checkmate. Isn't that amazing? So that doesn't work. So we'll put those back. So what works? Try rook d6. Now, what is the point of rook d6? Well, first of all, we'll show you that it's no use, because queen c8 is mate. Agreed? The point of rook d6 is to keep the rook on this line and to stop the check either by the queen or the bishop. And this was the idea of moving queen h8 so that you could eventually play bishop e5, checkmate. But you see, if it were white's move, bishop e5 or queen e5, the rook can interpose, so it stops it. So rook d6 stops the check by either piece, but queen c8 wins. Now, if you play this rook anywhere, like here, or here, or here, or here, here, it just doesn't work. Why not? Because of queen d8 this time, covering all the d line, the rook covers all the b, they protect each other, and the bishop covers the square. So that just doesn't work either. And it would be the same here, or here, or here, or here. It makes no difference. It's still checkmate. So the rook moving anywhere along this sixth rank just doesn't work. So you can ignore all of that. What else do we have? What about taking the queen? That's an obvious choice, isn't it? Because now the rook is undefended. The queen's off the board. But then you have bishop e5. And that's checkmate. Again, the bishop covers the rook behind the king. So that's happened twice in these variations. And the bishop covers this important square here. So that's checkmate as well. So this is where the bishop comes in handy. You need that bishop as backup to the queen should black take the rook, take the queen on h8. So what else do we have? Just look at that for a moment. So if the rook moves to here, rook h5, trying to stop bishop e5 or queen e5, then queen d8 again stops it, because it controls the c line, the a line, and the bishop here covers c6. So that doesn't work. What else do we have? We've covered the rook moves down here and to h5, and the rook anywhere else down here like this, here. We've covered the check one where the queen takes it. If it moves here, then of course by implication bishop e5 and the game's over. Anything else? That's it, isn't it? It's all over. So I think most players would either take the queen or go for the check, but either way it is a mate on e5 in the first line where you move to here, you take with the queen and it's checkmate with the queen. You take the queen here and it's checkmate with the bishop. So that is a very interesting opening problem, and like I say, I didn't have like I didn't have on the other videos with the cutting that I showed you on that occasion from the Soviet Union as well. Didn't have any benefit of the solution or solutions, but I think everyone would agree that that is the correct mate in two. There's no way out of it, because queen h8, once you play that, you can do nothing against it, either because the queen comes to here or to here. Here. The theme really here, when you think about it, it's the diagonal h2 to b8, and the all-important factor is that this rook is covered one way or the other, either here or with the queen here or with the bishop here. And this bishop doing nothing in particular, but it's doing everything because it's covering what would otherwise be a flight square, and you're certainly with that move avoiding stalemate. There's no way that can be a stalemate, because the king at the moment can move here. And that's one move that I didn't touch on, isn't it? And then the queen comes back like that. The rook, the bishop covers here, the queen covers here, because the king can't go back to it. The king can't go here, so it can't go there, anywhere there, and the rook can't do a thing, and the bishop covers the queen. That is the final movement in this, showing that the king still has a move, but it's of no avail. So I think those will be the key answers, either taking the queen up here, checking here, and then the queen taking it, or the king moving and then the queen coming in. Incidentally, you couldn't mate here with the bishop, because that would allow possibilities of the king escaping either of these ways. So you do have to, in this position where the king has moved to d6, move the queen back to e5. So again, you're utilizing still the same diagonal, but with the queen instead of the bishop. And so I trust that everyone enjoyed that one. I shall present these to you as and when I solve them. That's number one out of the way. I haven't attempted any of the others yet, but of course, if I'm not able to solve any of them, and there's no guarantee that I shall be able to as they get more difficult, I shall only put them on here as and when I am able to. And if I'm not able to, then I'll just keep trying until I am. And hopefully one of these days I'll show you the rest. But I don't know about anyone looking at these, but this is certainly a good way of improving your play, especially where there are those themes involved, as already discussed and discussed again today: the stalemate, the pin, the discovered attack, the checks, and then checking in reply and checkmating, and utilizing pieces that really don't come into the game or otherwise wouldn't come into the game, but you're bringing them in. And it is certainly a very interesting problem. I've taken a quick look at number 2, and I don't think it will cause me too many problems, but we'll see, and I'll let you know in due course. And the very best in your chess playing endeavours, and goodbye.